Hello and welcome to episode 98 of the Confident at Work podcast. I'm your host and confidence coach, Anna Manning. Can you believe it's episode 98? Well, you probably can, but I can't. It means the podcast started 2 years ago and I quit my full-time job 2 years ago to the week to run this business and support you with your confidence stuff full-time. And here we still are. Going strong enough. All right. So in today's episode, I just want to do a short one, and it's 3 confidence essentials. So you've probably heard me talk about the low confidence cycle and the high confidence cycle if you have been a podcast listener. But if you haven't, this week's episode, we're going to pull out 3 high confidence habits with their corresponding 3 low confidence habits. And I'm going to tell you why these are confidence essentials. So I've been working with professionals on building their confidence since 2018. So I've gathered a lot of data during that time. I have sat with a lot of people, a lot of good people who didn't feel so confident when they came and felt more confident when they left. So I know a little bit about what the essentials are if somebody is actually going to grow their professional confidence and maintain it over time. Because let's face it, if you're anything like most of my clients, you're always going to be reaching for something new. You're always going to be going slightly outside your comfort zone. You're probably going to be applying for promotions and saying yes to things. You're not going to feel completely 100% confident in your ability to do something perfectly. But if you build a strong foundation for your confidence, you can navigate those things more easily. And that's what I've seen people do over and over again. So these 3 confidence essentials are 3 things that you can focus on if you want to build your confidence. And the first one is how you speak to yourself. So I teach a class called Speak Up, and in that class, we look at the various reasons why it can be hard for us to speak up in various settings and what to do about it. And most often, we find out that lurking in people's minds is this critical voice. This critical voice which has some pretty choice and usually pretty horrible things to say to people. And nobody else knows that this is actually happening because that critical voice is just operating in the privacy of your own mind. And nobody else can actually hear the fact that while you're going about your workday, it's calling you an idiot and criticizing that thing you said in that meeting and telling you that you're never going to be able to do it and telling you that everybody else is fine and it's just you and that you're a piece of crap. And how do I know all this? Because that was the way I used to speak to myself. I was incredibly self-critical and it was bad for my confidence. And then I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on this particular issue. And what I can tell you is that if you gathered your colleagues together in a room and said to them, does anybody else have a kind of critical voice in their head that gives them a hard time? The vast majority of them would say yes. And if you asked them, do any of you tell anybody about what that critical voice says to you? The vast majority of them would say no. And if you ask them, did any of you get told about how that critical voice would exist in your head and what you could do in order to actually handle it and quiet it down? The vast majority of people would look at you blankly and say, no. My parent never taught me that. School never taught me that. Uni never taught me that. My professional training never taught me that. I teach another class called Quiet Your Inner Critic. Some of you might have been to it. And this is the number 1 confidence essential as far as I'm concerned. Because you cannot, or it is extremely difficult for you to feel the kind of confidence that you deserve when you're being permanently criticized. I always ask people how they would feel if they were working in a team where everything they did was criticized. There was a comment made about everything they'd said about every piece of work that they did, about every tiny thing that they might have got wrong. And most people say, I would feel pretty terrible in that situation. I probably wouldn't feel very confident. I know that if I was in that kind of situation, my confidence would be on the floor. And I know for some of you, you may be in an environment like that. You may be in an environment which is very critical, or you may have been before. But if you have this harsh, prevalent inner critic within your own mind, you are working within that kind of environment now. So imagine what that would do to someone's confidence. Imagine what it does to your confidence to be chipped away at every day by a critical voice in your own mind. Imagine what that would do to a person. It's like bullying. So if you are experiencing that, there is help for you in this podcast. I think it's like one of the first 5 episodes of the podcast is called 3 Steps to Quieten Your Inner Critic. Listen to the podcast. Do the exercises. My God, do you deserve to be spoken to with respect and support? Just because you're a human being who's showing up at work and giving your time and your energy, and everybody deserves that as a base level to be spoken to with respect, and you deserve that too. And you deserve it from inside your own mind. But not only do you deserve it, you cannot feel as confident as you want to if you're being constantly criticized. It just stands to reason. It's logical. And we know from the research that being criticized inside your own mind creates the same stress response as when somebody else is criticizing you. So that criticism erodes your confidence, and it also makes it harder to do your work. I do not have that critical voice in my mind anymore. Very occasionally it will say something and I'll be like, oh, where did you come from? Hello, is this what we're doing today? I don't take it seriously anymore. And it barely ever happens. And I am not someone special. This could be for you too. You have to make a positive decision about what you're going to tolerate anymore. I would listen to that podcast episode, do the exercises, and actually start to get a handle on that inner critical voice, because that is your first confidence essential. The second confidence essential is setting realistic standards. So imagine for a moment that you worked in a place that set completely unrealistic standards constantly, and then beat you up when you didn't meet them. How confident do you think you'd feel working in that kind of environment? I don't think I'd feel particularly confident either. But the reality for a lot of my clients, and maybe the reality for you, is that you have a tendency to set extremely high standards for yourself. Standards which many people would probably say are a little unrealistic. And then if you don't meet those superhuman standards, because how could you most of the time, you get beaten up by that inner critical voice that we looked at in Confidence Essential 1. You see, it's got a perfect little racket going on you there. 1, it sets you completely unrealistic standards, which probably nobody could ever meet. And 2, when you fail to meet them, it's going to sweep in and treat you like crap. So your second confidence essential is to learn how to set realistic standards. You know that you want to work in a workplace. You want to work in a workplace? You know that you want to work in a workplace that sets you realistic standards, that doesn't seek to give you so much that things are completely unrealistic, that doesn't say 100% of the time, that doesn't expect you to work in a way which is completely unrealistic. You probably imagine if you had a job interview and they said, perfectionists only. 100% perfection is our standard, and anything less than that is inappropriate and unacceptable. You'd probably be thinking, oh God, that is probably unrealistic for me because I'm a human and I can't do everything perfectly all the time. But if you identify as a perfectionist or you think you set extremely high standards for yourself, you're likely beating yourself up when you don't meet them. But you're also creating so much pressure that it is untrue. And in that kind of unrealistic, pressurized environment, as you can imagine, confidence is not able to thrive. You're constantly behind, you're constantly on the back foot, you're constantly feeling guilty or beating yourself up because you haven't been able to meet these subhuman standards, which God knows where they even came from. There is an episode about how to handle perfectionism in this podcast. So if this is you, I recommend you go back and listen to that episode. But that is your confidence essential number 2. Learn how to set realistic standards. Because if you identify as a perfectionist, if you have extremely high standards, your brain is going to be setting 100% or even 120% as the default standard for every single thing you do. It leads to overwork, overstress, overthinking, ruminating, over preparing. It wastes your time and your energy. And then it feeds beautifully into our confidence essential number 1, the inner critic. So our confidence essential number 3 is being able to focus on the positives as well as the negatives. And I sometimes call this being able to kind of see the bigger picture, see the reality of the totality of the work that you do and the contribution that you make. So very often we will have had a great day where we've done, 10 good things. And then there will be this one little thing that's not quite right, or this one little thing that went wrong. And what do you think the thing is that we're focusing on the way home? The one little thing which went wrong. Now, I think that probably is part of the human condition. But if you're going to feel as confident as you want to at work, you have to learn to step back and be able to see that bigger picture. And that bigger picture includes 10 things that went right and 1 thing that went wrong. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just, ignore the thing that went wrong and pretend everything's great all the time. I'm just suggesting that you learn to see what the reality is. And the reality is that 10 things went right and 1 thing went wrong. Now, this isn't always easy, but it can be done. You have to direct your mind intentionally, because if you're unintentional about it, your mind is probably going to go to the one wrong thing and stare at it for the next 3 weeks. It's not going to notice all the other beautiful things that have been happening. You're the one that's going to have to bring your attention to that and keep it there. So many of my clients completely forget about all their achievements and all their progress, and they just zeroed in on this one thing which feels terrible and is wrong. Now, that's probably an evolutionary compromise that humans have made, right? You want to notice the thing that's wrong. You want to notice the thing that's out of place because maybe it's going to keep you safe. But that kind of habit of always noticing the negatives and kind of glossing over the positives does not actually keep you safe in the workplace. It keeps your confidence low in the workplace, that's for sure. And you can change it. You can learn to be someone who is able to step back and actually see the reality more clearly. Now, all of us sometimes need reminding of that. All of us need reminding of our progress and our achievements and the stuff even that we've done in a day, which is good. But this is a confidence essential. Be able to acknowledge your good work and be able to see the whole picture and look at the positives and the progress as well as the stuff that goes wrong. If you need help with this, my first recommendation is to take the confidence assessment. I will leave a link in the show notes. It's free and it is designed to help you figure out where your confidence is at right now and why. So In that confidence assessment, you'll be asked a series of questions which are intended to diagnose what the problem is, which is keeping your confidence lower than you deserve. Once you have that diagnosis, or once you've been through that confidence assessment, you get an email with a diagnosis. And that diagnosis will take you through what needs to happen next. So, a prescription, if we're following the medical theme, for what you need to do in order to build your confidence. Now, you could just start with this episode and say, there's those 3 confidence essentials, and I'm going to focus on them. And you do well to focus on them, and they will bear a lot of fruit if you do focus on them in order to build your confidence. But I'm going to encourage you to take this one step further and go and take that confidence assessment. It's online and it's free, and it's going to help you figure out where you're at and why. It includes these 3 confidence essentials and some other things which I see that erode people's confidence again and again. So let's flip over to the high confidence habits, the 3 confidence essentials. So the first 3 were what we want you to stop doing. And the second 3 are just the opposite of that, what we want you to start doing. So in order to build your confidence, in order to feel more confident, you want to, instead of being self-critical, what? For me, it's I want to speak to myself with respect and with encouragement. And with, sometimes I'm going to give myself a really friendly, fun kick up the ass. And sometimes I'm going to be really gentle with myself, depending on what I need. I'm going to speak to myself like a great boss would. And that does wonders for my confidence. It's like that inner critical voice has actually been replaced by this other voice that says things to me like, well, I think you did a really good job there, Anna. It's so nice and it's so supportive. It's the kind of thing that you would love to hear from any colleague or boss around you. And it creates the kind of environment where your confidence can actually grow. And that's what we're after. And it is possible. Number 2, I said setting realistic standards. So think about what realistic standards would be for you for the stuff that you're doing in your workday today. Is it 100%, 100% of the time? Is it 70%? Actively think about choosing. If that's your brain default, 100 or 120%, actively decide and choose. And I even encourage you, if this is a problem for you, to write down whether this is going to be, gold, silver, or bronze standard, right? What's acceptable for this thing which is in front of you right now? If it's just an email you're dashing off to somebody, let's go with bronze, right? Don't do gold standard and sit there stressing out over 3 lines all day. Go bronze, go home. There may be other things where you think, no, only a gold standard will do for this. Great, enjoy that. But actively decide what you think the standard should be, rather than using your brain's default, because it's going to run on 100 or 120. So make an active decision until your brain just learns to do that by default. And then number 3 was around being able to acknowledge your good work and your progress and focus on the positives as well as the negatives. And that's what I want you to do. That's the habit that I wish you would install into your brain and into your day, because I see the fruit that it will bear if you do. For the person who's able to step back and say, do you know what? That did go wrong. It did. And it wasn't great. If they can also say, but you know what? In the context of what I've been doing in the last month, overall, it's still good. Overall, I'll learn from it. I'll move on. It's fine. The person who is able to do that, long live their confidence, because they will be able to maintain their confidence even in the event that something goes a bit wrong. Now, I'm not saying your confidence is going to stay at the same level all the time. It's not. That is not realistic. But if you work on these 3 confidence essentials, your confidence will grow to a level which feels good to you, and you will be able to maintain it over time. Yes, there will be some dips, but you will be able to come back up again. And if you want my help to do that, there are 2 ways to work with me at the moment. The first is inside our new members club. So Confident at Work, this podcast now has a members club. And that is a paid place. It's just a place for women, professionals. And inside the members club, we have different things going on that's all intended to support your confidence and your professional development. And you can pick and choose and access things that feel right to you, that you feel like you need, that would be supportive to you. So we have 6 training sessions a year, and we're going to deep dive on topics that have been well received on the podcast. Things that people struggle with, things that you probably struggle with. We're going to deal with self-doubt. We're going to deal with inner criticism. We're going to deal with perfectionism. We're going to deal with all of these things that I talked about today, because these are the foundations. And that is what I want to help you build inside the members club. So you get 6 in deep dive trainings every year. You get every other week, you have a group coaching call with me where the community comes together. You can get coaching. You can ask questions. You can troubleshoot stuff with the community. And that's designed to be the place where once you've learned something, you can actually go away and embed it and then come back and say, this isn't working, this is a challenge, this is a problem. Or you can come and tell us about the colleague that you're having a really hard time with, or the promotion that you really want to gain. I'm going to give you confidence coaching. I'm going to give you the kind of coaching that's going to help support you and get you back out into your day. We also have a private podcast for the members, and what else? There is one other thing. Oh yeah, we have a learning library. So it's an online platform that you can access via your web browser or via an app, which I think is pretty cool. So you can access it on the go. And that contains the recorded classes. So all of the recorded classes in a vault, but it also contains Confident at Work, which is our signature training program. And you can take the modules in your own time, or you can pick and choose things that work for you. Things like quiet your inner critic, or deal with perfectionism, or how to handle self-doubt. That is a program which you can go through that will really set strong foundations for your confidence. But you can also just pick and choose. And it can be asynchronous, as they say. You can take what you want when you need it. I will leave a link in the show notes. You can either join quarterly or yearly. And if you join yearly, you get a bonus introductory coaching call with me, where I'm going to take you through everything and kind of set you on a path for more confidence and success and feeling good and like knowing how to use everything within the members club. Anyway, I've talked about that for long enough. Go to the link in the show notes now and explore, and hopefully come and join us. We're starting small and mighty, so it's still a lovely place to be. And you get lots of individual coaching because there's not too many people in there at the moment. The second way you can work with me is via private confidence coaching. And this is the place for you if you want individual time and attention with me. And we're going to sort through your individual challenges, the individual areas where you want to grow and build your confidence at work. And we're going to be looking at those foundational things as well, and knocking out those foundational habits that erode your confidence and embedding the habits which build your confidence. And you're going to go away with your confidence where you want, and with a set of tools and techniques that you can use for the rest of your career. So I will leave a link to book a call to explore that in the show notes too. And I think that is quite enough for me for this week. And I will see you in next week's episode, which will be number 99. All right. See you next week. Bye.